I know I wasn't the only one that was caught a little bit off guard and was surprised by the news earlier this week that the Bills were benching Tyrod Taylor and going with Nathan Peterman, their 5th-round pick out of Pittsburgh, this Sunday in their game against the Chargers. I was caught off guard. I really didn't see this coming, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, especially for the Bills right now, as of this recording, sitting at 5-4. They would be in the playoffs right now in the AFC if the season ended today. It would end the longest playoff drought in the NFL. Seems like a really weird time to be making this type of move. And some of the reasons you'll hear is that they wanted to get Nathan Peterman a start now before their next 2 games afterwards get a lot more difficult, which is certainly understandable. You don't want to throw Peterman, if you're going to go with him and you feel like he's the better option, that you're going to sit there and throw him to the Wolves right away. You want to kind of ease him in against the Chargers a little bit first. You'll hear some things about how Tyrod's not their guy, and everybody knows it, and that's probably accurate. And I would expect him not to be there in 2018. There will be some talk about how the offense needs a spark, and they really struggled the last 2 games, which they absolutely did. Look at the Jets game. They only scored 7 points until late in the 4th quarter when it didn't matter because the Jets had already blown the brakes off these jokers anyways. And then this past Sunday when New Orleans ran it down their throats and beat them 47-10. You know, Tyrod Taylor was terrible in that game, period, no matter how you spin it. He got benched. He got benched for a reason because he was awful. You'll hear some of the complaints about Tyrod Taylor when people talk about the statistics and completion percentages and the lack of interceptions and saying he takes care of the football. But he's kind of like Black Alex Smith in a way, in terms of he holds onto the ball too long. He's way too comfortable with checking down way too quickly. He doesn't stretch the field vertically as much as you need to make some big explosive plays in the offense. He really is, in a lot of ways, Alex Smith. So he's a guy that you can win some games with, but you don't necessarily win a ton of games because, and potentially he caps the potential of your team because you can only get so much out of him. You will also hear some people point to the fact that they believe he was benched because he was black. And this comes from some of the social media people out there. This also comes from some in the football media that believe this. And I want to address that one first. As much as I could be accused of being a cuck and being an SJW, in this particular case, I think this is a load of shit. Now, some people will bring up other white quarterbacks starting and other white quarterbacks starting that are worse than Tyrod Taylor, but those are different teams, different situations, different decisions. That could speak to the situation for those other teams and their quarterback position, just how bad off they are. It could speak some to the stupidity of the front office and the coaching staff. But each situation is potentially different. When you want to talk about bigger narratives, that's one thing. But the bigger narrative does not necessarily apply here. And, you know, some will take this as an opportunity to reach, and in my opinion it is, and throw Colin Kaepernick into this situation because we look to kind of throw him into every situation at this point. And again, it's just not applicable. It just isn't. Tyrod Taylor is not a great quarterback. It does not matter if he is black or he is white. He is just not a great quarterback. He is the type of guy that a team knows they can win some games with, but they will always be in a mode where they are looking to replace him. And you can sit there and say, well, this and that and everything else about he was benched because he's black, because Sean McDermott doesn't like him, so on and so forth. Well, we know based off of reports from the NFL draft this past April, May, that the team was really high on Patrick Mahomes in terms of the ownership and apparently some of the coaches, but it was GM Doug Whaley, who was black himself, who decided not to take Patrick Mahomes. But looking at Sean McDermott, to me, you are typically going to go with what you know, what you are familiar with, and what you have enjoyed the most success with. And unfortunately, yes, I will say for some coaches, some teams, that will be the white statue pocket passers, or certain defensive schemes, certain offensive systems, like I look at John Fox in Chicago, and it's chicken shit football. It's run the ball on first down, second down, a lot of times on third down. It is play defense, and don't screw up, but be conservative as hell, because he's enjoyed success in Carolina and Denver using that same philosophy. So he's going to go with what he knows, what he's familiar with, and what he's enjoyed success with. That's not unreasonable. It doesn't make it the right thing to do, but it doesn't make it unreasonable. But when you look at Sean McDermott and his history, going back to his time as an assistant in the 2000s with Philadelphia, his time as an assistant in this decade with Carolina, Sean McDermott went to 2 different Super Bowls with 2 different organizations with 2 black starting quarterbacks in Donovan McNabb and Cam Newton. Why would Sean McDermott be so opposed to starting a black quarterback, if anything, based off of what he knows and what he's familiar with and what the teams he's been involved with have enjoyed success having at the quarterback position? You would think, if anything, he would gravitate towards a black quarterback, wouldn't you? Just based off of common sense? Just based off of his own history? He would gravitate towards a McNabb type. He would gravitate towards a Cam Newton type. So to me, to sit there and say that Tyrod Taylor got benched because he was black, I think is completely and totally ridiculous. Now, some are going to talk about the slack in the lead, so to speak, or the leash, or whatever you want to call it, in terms of how much Tyrod Taylor and other black quarterbacks get in terms of benefit of the doubt, in terms of chances compared to white quarterbacks. And that is a valid debate and a valid comparison. It is. But I don't know that it's 100% applicable to this particular situation. It may be some, but not totally. But I don't buy that he was benched because he was black. Now, you're going to have some that will also throw out their statistical comparisons and say, well, Tyrod Taylor is not really any different than Cam Newton. Why is one guy thought of as franchise and Tyrod Taylor kind of doesn't get that same love? Well, you know what? Statistically, you're not that off. Even though Cam Newton has thrown for more yards and more touchdowns, run for more yards, more touchdowns, made more big plays, has a larger average yard per completion, Tyrod Taylor's completion percentage is higher. His interception rate is much lower. I get that. There are, when you look at the numbers, and you look at the numbers alone, but keep in mind sometimes statistics can be misleading, and statistics do not tell the whole story, and in this particular case, they do not. You cannot tell me that you watch a Tyrod Taylor and you watch a Cam Newton, and you think these guys are on an equivalent plane as quarterbacks in the National Football League. You are insane. Stop it. Cam Newton is much more aggressive in throwing the football. His system dictates that he takes more shots down the field. Like I said, Tyrod Taylor, in a lot of ways, to me, is black Alex Smith. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL, but he's not the type of guy that you're going to win big games with consistently. And when you look at the Bills the last 2 years, they didn't make the playoffs with Tyrod as their primary starter. And even right now, they're on the cusp of potentially not making the playoffs, where they've had Tyrod Taylor their start of the first 9 games. Yeah, they technically right now would be in the playoffs, but as a 6th seed, and not by a big margin. And you're also talking about a guy, if we want to go back to Rex Ryan, this was the guy that Rex Ryan anointed as the quarterback. Do you really have faith and belief in Rex Ryan and his decisions at the quarterback position? I'm just saying. And also when you think about it, it's a new regime, new head coach, new front office. Tyrod Taylor hasn't been to the playoffs, hasn't won a playoff game, and no, by no stretch of the imagination does he deserve that blame alone. That would be completely and totally BS. Completely and totally unfair to him. But we do use team wins as a quarterback stat, fair or not, and ultimately he wasn't good enough to get his team there, regardless of if that's totally fair or not. You will also hear the thing about how Marcus Mariota gets praised, even though he's about the same as Tyrod Taylor. And again, at this stage of Mariota's career, that's nearly inaccurate. But again, Mariota, more special plays happen than Tyrod Taylor. Furthermore, Mariota,
3 years into his career with a Titans team that's just starting to build an offense up around him. Talk about a guy that was also the 2 overall pick. Whereas Tyrod Taylor was ultimately a cast-off from the Baltimore Ravens' league for like 7-8 seasons now. So it's different. But I get statistically, again, where you say has more interceptions than touchdowns this year. Yardage totals are similar. Percentages are similar. Not entirely untrue. But when it comes down to it, I look at this move, and I'd get the move if Tyrod Taylor was truly terrible, which he wasn't. I'd get it if the team playoff race at this point, or not
in one of the first 6, but they're not. They were in the 6th spot after 9 games. I understand that they had a highly drafted rookie behind them. Like if this team had taken a Patrick Mahomes 10th overall or a Watson 10th overall, then completely and totally get it. Because you're saying it's about the future. We feel like the future is now, and we got to find out what this. We have plunked down a first-round pick on him. We got to know. We need to know. I get it, and at that point in time, there's not a very good argument making the move. It would also be, well, if quarterback was the one thing holding this team back. But it's their defense just got pounded the past 2 weeks by the Jets and the Saints. They just let the Saints run all over them. Offensively, LaShawn isn't running with the success he has in previous seasons. Their talent on the outside at wide receiver is nothing to know about. So this is far from a one-player, one-quarterback fix for the Buffalo Bills. If it was just that, then I get it. But ultimately, I don't get this move, and here's why. The Bills, again, are in the midst of the playoff race. They are in position, 5-4. Yes, their last 2, and it's ugly. But again, Tyrod Taylor doesn't play defense. Tyrod Taylor doesn't give up 30-something flipping Jets, and then 47 to the freaking Saints. 2 wide receivers from last year, and Sammy Watkins and Robert Woods are gone. Any coincidence? Go to Los Angeles, and the Rams are sitting at 7-2? And honestly, you replaced them with lesser players. Jordan Matthews, second-round pick Zay Jones has been largely a nothing. What's really weird about it is, in an attempt to address that at the wide receiver position, really give Tyrod Taylor to play with Calvin Benjamin that you just made the big trade for at the trade deadline. So it seems fundamentally bullshit to sit and measure a guy when he's going with an off that not too many quarterbacks are great, and that's just the way it is. And it feels like another one of these situations where Sean McDermott is trying to make it, like he did by Reggie Ragland and Marcel Darius, so on and so forth, Sammy Watkins and then that guy. You know, there's one turning over and pulling a roster, but at what point in time do you run out of statements and you just honestly need to coach better? You need to put your team in better situations to win. Your offensive play calling needs to be better. Your defense needs to play better. And your defensive play calling needs to be better. Those are the statements that should. A little more than half season when you would be a playoff team right now. The quarterback who's thrown 3 interceptions this year, when you hear so much BS about football over the years, about the team that wins the turnover battle more often than not wins. Well, with the quarterback that, granted, doesn't give you a ton of big plays, doesn't give you a ton of explosive plays, and is kind of, like I said, an Alex Smith, Buffalo's, you ultimately go into most games knowing to win the turnover battle. If you can't win more games, maybe it is more than just the freaking quarterback. And at what point in time do you try to make too many statements where these statements don't matter and lose the locker room? And what is it about Peterman that makes him so much more eminently qualified, Taylor, at this particular point in time to start for the Buff potentially for the rest of this year? Telling me this is a short thing to try and Rod Taylor out of a funk, well, that's not good. You have to let Tyrod Taylor play through a funk. Benching him for a couple of games and bringing him back puts doubt in his mind. That's just, when you talk about Nathan Peterman, sure, you're going to say he gets rid of the ball quicker. Able to perhaps stretch more vertically. Perhaps. But you lose a lot of mobility at the quarterback position. And let's face it, the Bills could use some mobility at the quarterback. So you're basically forsaking the yardage that Tyler gains on the ground and anticipating even more gains on Peterman as a pocket passer. Do you really that happening? Based off of what I see right now, this just seems like a really weird, really odd, poorly timed decision. If you're out of the playoff race, if Tyrod Taylor had truly been that glaringly, obviously terrible, then you have no choice but to make. And I understand, again, maybe next year You're moving on from him anyway, so why wait? Why not go there now? But there's also something that you are in the playoff race right now. A chance to make the playoff. AFC, as long as you got average play, which at least Tyrod Taylor is going to quarterback play, don't make the playoffs this year. Buffalo Bills organization would be a massive win, especially knowing the draft pick capital they're going to have in the 2018 draft. Could be the start of something for this team. Do you really have much of a heart on Peterman that you were that eager to get it started with him and potentially risk your playoff position? It just seems really dumb.